Morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to this webinar session. I'm Tony Schönenberger. I'm the Executive Chairman of STARS. STARS is a platform for a dialogue to discuss developments which will impact our society as a whole, but particularly also our businesses and organizations in the next couple of years. In this context, I'm pleased to inform you about the STARS study tour to China, to Shenzhen and Guangzhou, the two innovation centers in China. That will be end of June, beginning of July of this year. We are going to visit global champions like BYD and Huawei, and also unicorns and startups in Guangdong province. 25 business leaders have already registered, and we have 5 seats left. So please visit our website for more information. Today, we are continuing our webinar series on the circular economy, a must for business leaders. No doubt, this topic is extremely important for our businesses, but for the society as a whole as well. Today, we have the great privilege to talk to Shalini Goyal BHALLA. Shalini is Managing Director of the International Council for Circular Economy in New Delhi. Shalini, thank you very much for joining this session. We are very much looking forward to your insights. I want to introduce you now to our moderator, Gordana Kierans. Gordana is a former professor for international business. She is now managing partner of her consulting company in Croatia. Her focus is circular economy. And I should also mention that Gordana is the incoming president of the STARS Southeast Europe Alumni chapter. And I should also mention that this chapter will be inaugurated in May of this year, combined with a STARS alumni study tour to Croatia. Please visit again our website for more information. Now, Gordana designed this important series of webinars on sustainability and particularly on the circular economy, and she is also moderating these sessions. Gordana, once more, thank you very much. We are very much looking forward to this session. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. I have the best job in a world. I get to talk to people and I get thanked for it. I get to talk to experts about the circular economy from all around the world, and it's actually, pleasure is all mine. This morning, good morning to everyone, good afternoon, good evening, and if you celebrate, a very, very happy New Year of the Snake. I have a privilege to talk to Shalini. Yoo-hoo. I mean, have been looking for this moment for a very long time. Shalini, a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gordana. Thank you, Tony, for inviting me to this this program. I think it is an honor to speak about what the business leaders need to do. And it's a very good time. It's the new year to begin a new chapter in our lives and talk about circularity, which is something which is very close to our heart since we have been working on it for last 4 or 5 years.
Exactly. Dear audience, I have the Q&A window open in front of me. You know, you can ask questions. I will prioritize your questions. In the meantime, I will start with my own. Shalini, as I mentioned earlier, I have been following your work now for several years as a managing director for International Council for Circular Economy. And tell us a little bit, first question about your work. The reason why I'm asking is, you're working with the government, you're working with cities, you're working with large corporations like Hyundai. You also contributed to ISO standards. So it's such a vast area that you are covering with your team. So tell us, how do you align all these different stakeholders in your work?
Thank you, Gordana, for asking me that. I think when we talk about circularity, it's important that we involve all the stakeholders. When we started in 2020, it was not envisaged that we will be picking up on every single stakeholder so quickly. But I think it was the push of the time, it was the need of the hour that made us to do much beyond than what we envisaged we would do in the first 3 years. I remember in 2020 when we were preparing our strategic plan for the first 3 years, it stood on 3 different pillars. We said educate, innovate, and inspire. So we thought we will work on skilling because the most important thing and the push that will come is from having experts working in circularity. And so education in circular economy is very, very important. The second pillar was innovation through the industry and telling through the startups, bringing in entrepreneurs that could bring in circular business models. And last was also inspiring the industry to make a change either through the policies or through the self-motivated compliances. But then I think it was also the right moment. India started to look at 11 waste streams, and these waste streams focused on different sectors and how we could reduce waste, though it was more focused on end of life, but at the same time looking at how we could manage our 11 sectors and the strategies for being circular. And council was a very integral part of these 11 subcommittees. So from that policy perspective, and till today, where we work with startups and industry to train them, to build the capacities, to educate, to skill, has just happened. Meanwhile, you also mentioned about ISO standards. I think it was an honor that the work that we were doing in India, being a very small company, was recognized at a global platform. Organizations like UNEP's National Framework for Built Environment and also ISO recognized our work, and they invited us to be a committee member to present our views. And so we have been a part of multiple international and national committees that talk about either the frameworks or the indices or standards for circularity. Another, I think, a very big achievement for the council has been that we were awarded by the Ministry of Environment Finland for our work in climate action. That was another achievement. But I think this is just a beginning, and the council will continue to grow as in the coming years as we grow.
That's great news. Really looking forward to watching that growth, because India has such an immense potential when it comes to circularity for several reasons. We'll discuss that in just a moment. So if the circular economy with your great work is implemented properly, you can contribute greatly to the benefit of everybody else. So tell us, you mentioned the promising developments that are already happening. How are you supported by regulators in terms of your own work? Do you see a pushback? Do you see lots of support when you talk to regulators?
No, I think regulators are working in India, there are a lot of legislations that are coming. The BSRS, ESG, which is pushing the industry to work on circularity. The regulator by themselves are looking at how to implement it. So it has been a very interesting collaborative journey with policymakers and regulators to implement what we are looking at. I think India has taken a very I would say calculative measure that while India will continue to grow economically, we will try to build a sustainable, our development will be more sustainable. And so the policies reflect that stance. extended producer's responsibility for that case is one of the regulation that has come, and the Central Pollution Control Board is the body which is looking at it. But these development in these regulations is far collaborative measure from the government's perspective. And there are a lot of times that we have given our recommendations and sought, try to bridge the industry and policymaker gap to help them make policies that are more grounded and are more kind of worked with, that could be more fruitful for the country, I think. So I would say the journey has been nothing less than exciting. And we, again, as we grow, we will be looking at more such regulations coming in India, and also the industry embracing them, and the council will continue to bridge the gap.
Mm-hmm. The regulatory framework you mentioned in our previous conversation, that this will be then implemented on a state level. Just for us to understand the challenge that your country, your regulators are facing. I understood that when I lived in China, which is equally, in terms of population, equally big, and the amount what this means, how many lives are impacted by these regulatory decisions. 1.4 billion people, thankfully, in your country. But just to illustrate to you, dear audience, what it means, 1.4 billion. If we were to count every single person in India, not do anything else, just count every single person, we would need 40 years. Right. This is over 40 years, actually. So this is what it means to regulate 1.4 billion people. That is, of course, connected with some challenges. What are some of the challenges you are facing?
Gordana, to answer your question on 1.4 billion people and counting them would take 40 years, something similar. I mean, it sounds like I'm listing it once again. And, you know, this is something which was told about India and discussed on several global news channels during the pandemic. And they said if India was to vaccinate its entire population, it will take 14 years. And someone said something. But imagine that we were able to vaccinate the entire population within a couple of years, and that too with the booster shot. So I think that is one big achievement that India has had. And we are capable of doing much beyond what people think of. I do understand 1.4 billion could be a very huge population, and it is definitely we are today the world's most populous country, which brings in its own challenges. Very true, but at the same time, I think when I talk about, to answer your question very particularly about how it is happening and what the challenges we see, I see, first of all, if I look at the top-down approach, we see about circularity. The commitment is coming from the top, and so all the government initiatives and policies are directed and are kind of very thoroughly framed to make it successful at the end of it. So it's not about just a regulation, but how it should be implemented. If I talk about industry, they are all moving one step ahead, not only to increase their own productions, but also include sustainable production practices as we move on, change. A lot of work I see is happening in material innovation and packaging. Also, the EPR has helped bring in the reverse supply chain models, which we see growing in every sector. To begin with, obviously, is plastic, but then there are other sectors that are being included. If I talk about implementation happening at the state level, a lot of states are now planning the roadmaps to become, or let's say a framework or strategy to become more circular. And if I go down to cities, I see a lot of waste management practices. I see material recovery facilities coming. They're talking about not only door-to-door collection, but they're also talking about segregation and recycling. And everyone has their own kind of targets to achieve. And at the same time, I see a lot of work being done in the carbon credit market. But having said so, despite the work happening from the top brass to the lowest level, we see that one thing that we need to change is that we need to focus on a thinking that starts from the beginning. And I think it's not a challenge only for India, but I would say it's a challenge, it's a global challenge. Unless we start to think from a design phase, unless we start to kind of think what happens when we start designing a product, just the end of life waste management policies, which focus more on recycling efforts, will still have its limitations and will limit the full potential of circular economy. That I think is one challenge which we all need to kind of look at and formulate better regulations and policies and maybe standards to follow going forward.
You're addressing several interesting points, and rightfully, the circular economy is all about redesigning. As you rightfully said, fighting with all that waste stream we are creating at the end of life cycle is not going anywhere because it's not designed for, it's only designed for landfill or burning or anything else. Yeah. One of the challenges, of course, is in India is poverty. But it has also created, you mentioned entrepreneurs earlier, I'm also passionate about the opportunities that are hidden for entrepreneurs in this transition. We need the design products, and sometimes we turn back and look in the past how our ancestors did, because our ancestors didn't have plastic cups or plastic packaging to protect food, yet they did. And in my training, I like to point out Miticool, the refrigerator made out of clay, or Miticool is making lots of clay products. And we know from historical funds that clay used to be a very popular container for food preservation. So I found this interesting that you can turn actually this challenging situation into a benefit. So are you seeing more of that in India?
Oh, yes, Dr. Gordana, Miticool is just one example, but there are so much happening in India that whether we talk about material innovation or we talk about the digital frameworks, the technology, it's all a lot of innovation that's happening in different sectors. For example, when EPR came in India, there was a huge informal sector that was there, but today that informal sector is becoming the backbone of circular economy, because the same informal sector helps you to collect a lot of plastic waste across different states. But how to kind of improve the socioeconomic conditions, how to give them better jobs, better opportunities. Similarly, if we talk about digital e-commerce, the digital revolution in India has actually made a lot of impact on the below poverty line people. Today, these people can have several job opportunities that were not there earlier, and India has performed much better when it came to the elimination of poverty and creating jobs. This has happened because of the digital revolution. This has happened because of the certain business models that have come up where the informal sector is involved. Today, we see a lot of business models coming up from the startup sector. Material innovation, if you go to Kerala, you will see a lot of biomaterials that have been worked upon. We are also looking at digitization of the entire supply chain. So models where you can actually track your material is happening. There is DPP, the digital product passport, that was introduced by Europe, but India is working on something similar, and tracing and tracking and traceability of the products is something that's been working. So yes, I think there is a lot of work that's happening in different sectors, be it textiles, electronics. We are looking at alternate materials. We are looking at reducing the negative externalities. We are also looking at how to conserve our biodiversity as we grow, and the huge infrastructure that we are looking at comes up as Indian economy grows. But at the same time, I think, yes, we are 1.4 billion. We are 28 states in a country, and a country as big as Europe itself. So it will take time. There are a lot of opportunities, and there is a lot of scope that can still be improved.
Yeah, definitely. But it's the beauty of it. You can shape all of that right now. There are all the opportunities that the change that brings with that. And one of the changes that is happening geopolitically is the shift of the supply chains due to US-China tensions. Some of these supply chains are coming to India, which is a great development. I remember when I lived in China, it's wonderful to see so many people lifted out of poverty. I mean, China eradicated extreme poverty during the time I was there. This is an incredible achievement. And seeing the very strong middle class is, of course, a dream come true for any economy. Let's hope India is on this trajectory. What I would like to ask in this context is, of course, we are looking at one of the reasons behind the circular economy is, of course, our resource shortage in certain areas and the resource pressure that we are facing. So how can we balance this of an increasing middle class, which is to be welcomed, and yet at the same time us facing resource shortages or resource pressure? How it's a fine balancing act. What are your thoughts on that?
Very pertinent question, Dr. Gordana. India is growing fast, and it's growing at almost 6.5%. According to one of the report by the International Monetary Fund, they upgraded India's gross domestic product in the financial year of 24-25 by 20 basis points to almost 7% from its forecast, the previous one of 6.8%. And if I go by figures from 2017 to 18 and then to 21 to 22, India generated more than 80 million employment opportunities as per the periodic labor force survey of India, and also by the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India data. This translates to almost an average of around 20 million jobs that were created each year. And this is despite the challenges that were posed by the pandemic. Such a significant employment generation demonstrates also the effectiveness of the initiative that the government of India has taken that are aiming towards boosting employment across the sectors. I also see additionally that there is an emphasis on boosting individual wealth creation, which is driven by rising wages. It is also the corporate profits that are increasing, and a very favorable economic environment that is becoming a very foundational strength or the potential for an inclusive growth for India, and also the equitable distribution of the benefits, because we are looking also at the public distribution system, the DPI, the digital public infrastructure, which is enabling an equitable development for all sections of society. So I think the government is trying to make a balance and grow equitably for all the classes, with a special focus on the below poverty line segment. So I think it is a expect a fair future for them in going forward.
You are addressing lots of interesting points. And along the job creation and the numbers that you mentioned are mind-boggling. I mean, imagine, I was just thinking at the same time, imagine if we created 20 million jobs in Europe in the next while. I mean, my goodness. We have on the systemic level, where are your observations? What else needs to change in addition to everything you mentioned, for the circular economy to succeed long term? Technology, of course, is one of the major enablers for us. Technology is our friend because it can help us understand material streams, for example, help us move back and forth. But is technology really supporting us at this point systemically?
Oh, yes. If I talk about India, certainly they are. The technology has played a very significant role in bringing everyone together, in providing infrastructure that would help make the entire supply chain more efficient. We've seen it in the waste management sector. We are seeing it in tracking of the products. We are seeing it also in connecting with the global supply chains. Technology in India has definitely helped and is a very big enabler for that case. We are also seeing that at a lot of places, a similar technology that was adopted by the plastic sector is now being adopted by other sectors as well. And with the supply chains going global, it is essential that we bring in technology, not only in India, but the other parts. And for that case, I would like to highlight that technology in India is helping us grow sustainably, but at the same time, there is a huge need of similar technology in the global south, in other parts of the world. And India has been supporting the neighboring countries and other countries in developing technology in various sectors. I am a great fan of technology now that there is a huge debate about AI also coming in, and how does AI kind of look at that. But I see AI again as an enabler and a medium that could help us grow beyond a certain point. But I think it should be a balance between the human touch and AI that would help us to kind of grow further. China has been working on DeepSeek, and we are reading the latest news in technology. I think technology will make the future everywhere, every sector, be it circularity or otherwise. I think there'll be nothing without technology going forward.
I think India is perfectly positioned there to be the bridge between the Western and the Eastern kind of part of the world, and you have really the technological know-how in your country that can help us and support many developments going forward. Shalini, I could talk to you for hours. You know that from our previous encounters. I could continue asking you because there is so much depth in your country, so much wisdom, so much experience. I didn't even have a chance to ask you about corporations. India is home to several large corporations and their efforts in circularity. I'm very much aware of their decarbonization efforts, but we are out of time, so I will keep that for one of our next encounters and at the next circular economy event, hopefully in Brazil. Okay. For our audience, if they want to reach out to you, what is the best way?
They can always reach out to me at my email ID, Gordana. They're most welcome to reach out to me and write to me. I will definitely try to respond to them.
And sign up for the newsletter. I highly recommend. You get so many interesting facts delivered to your inbox regularly. So that's something I really enjoy reading.
Thank you so much. I think our newsletter is very well thought of and kind of brings a worldwide view on circularity. Thank you. I think newsletter is good. I would also like to use the platform to announce that we are only launching a new website tomorrow. So I welcome everybody to look at the new website, which talks about how ICCE has been a thought leader in circularity in India and abroad. And also, I believe LinkedIn is a very good channel to connect, to see what we continue to do. I think we are most active on LinkedIn. So most welcome to connect, and I'll be happy to answer. Moreover, I think one point that I would like to share is a lot of work is being done by ICC in the industrial sector. So we are building the capacities of big corporates, smaller SMEs, and also bringing in a lot of fellowship programs and certifications. So anybody from across the globe who's interested to be a part of it is most welcome to join us and can find the information either on our website or on our LinkedIn page.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. We have feedback from our audience. Aaron says that this is a terrific interview on an important topic. Very welcome, Aaron. Thank you for being with us today. And of course, thank you, Shalini, for your insights. Always very, very much appreciated. And thank you for your work.
Thank you, Dr. Gordana. It was a pleasure answering those wonderful questions. Thank you, Tony, for inviting me.
Thank you, our audience. See you in our next time. Our journey, our global journey continues. So join us for our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.